but it means the most to me to know that when I'm seeing, posts online and people talking about the show, that we're getting real true traction with Black families and particularly Black kids loving the show. Hi.
Yeah. This is reality.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Halcyon, for joining me. I'm Kelly Glass. I'm the editorial director of Kindred by Parents. The whole team loves Karma's World, so it's so beloved. What's it like for you to write and work for the show?
Honestly, I know this might sound like hyperbole, but it's literally a dream come true for me. When I was approached about the show, when they came to me and said, hey, this is the idea we're working on, it's with Ludacris, I mean, truly my jaw dropped to the floor. I never thought that a show like this with this kind of mission, this kind of ambition could be possible in our industry. And now to see that we've made it and we're doing it, and to work so closely with Chris, who is just a brilliant innovator and has been just leading and pushing us to go so far and move the culture and our industry forward with the show. I mean, a lot of the chances I've gotten to with the show, a lot of the stories I've gotten to tell, I honestly didn't ever know if that would be possible. So the writing team of the show likes to say this is the show we wished was on TV when we were kids. And I feel like that dream has come true for me. So I can't say enough about how amazing the experience has been.
I think parents of kids who get to watch the show with their kids would say the same thing. Yeah. Do you feel like with each episode and with each kind of lesson, do you feel like you have a responsibility to Black and Brown children?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that is our guiding light, honestly, is thinking about the young Black kid at home who's watching the show and their families. We talk about every episode through that lens, because while we know that a lot of kids around the world will be watching, kids from every different experience, if a show like ours doesn't have a clear, true mission of who they're speaking to and who their show is for, everything else will get watered down and washed out. I believe that in specificity comes universality. And I think that when we speak about a specific Brooklyn Black family with a specific experience, like that actually is more robust and more exciting and more authentic, and will get more people to fall in love with our characters than if we tried to be everything for everyone. What's really lovely is we found that is true. The show is like really popular across every demographic, which is amazing. But it means the most to me to know that when I'm seeing, posts online and people talking about the show, that we're getting real true traction with Black families and particularly Black kids loving the show.
So talk to me about what kind of things do you hope to see, or are you working on to see Karma's World cover?
What's great about the show is that we've gotten to cover so many things. We've gotten to talk about so many topics. Again, I think the ambition behind being able to do to tell so many stories, go deep on really important messages has been great, but there's always more we can do. And I think that given what's happened in the world since the first Karma's episodes come out, or I should say the first Karma's episode worlds were written, there's so much more we can do. Obviously, we know that kids are coming back into the world, and the kids who are watching our show have spent 2+ years living with COVID and the social isolation of being with your families. And we really want to tell stories about that. Maybe not specifically about COVID and Karma's community, but about the idea of going from isolation to trying to make new friends, and the social anxiety around new people and trying to figure out who you are in a new space is meaningful no matter what your experience is. We would love to tell stories that dig deeper into Karma's community, of course, as well. There's so much more to tell there. When you're talking about a Brooklyn block, there's a million stories, and we love the history of her block and the history of music in her block. So we have some stories that we're working on coming up that will dig deeper into that history and show more about the history of Black music in Karma's community and celebrate that.
Since Karma's World is at its core about Black childhood, I would love to talk to you about your own childhood, where you grew up, what your family was like.
I grew up in a city called Plainfield, New Jersey. I am lucky to have the most loving, wonderful family in the world. I think that when Chris talks about his relationship with his daughters, I think he's writing and creating to that relationship. In a lot of ways, I feel like I'm writing and creating with my relationship to my dad. Daddy Daughter Day, which is one of the first episodes of the first season, is an episode I wrote that is really a love letter to my dad, who's been such an incredible part of my life. He's a writer as well, and learning from him has been incredible. Like, about creativity and about how you do your work. He never wrote as a career, but he is like a hobbyist as a writer, and he's just brilliant at it. And I feel like I learned a lot about life and creativity and family from him. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm biracial, so my experience is different than Karma's, but I am lucky to have a lot of elements of Karma's family I think I infused, but I'm also lucky to have a really brilliant team of folks that we work with across our production, our writing team, our animation team, who are also Black and have brought their experiences to the table. And what I kind of love about the Karma's World experience and what she brings is that it's the Black experience that is specific from multiple different angles. So my experience of being Black growing up in New Jersey is very different than our senior story editor Keon's experience of being Black growing up in Louisiana, or one of our producers, Hannah Cope, who grew up in the Midwest. So like the idea of like bringing all those Black cultural experiences together. We would have conversations of like, did you wear shoes in the house? Like, what did you do with this? Like, we would talk these things through, and like to get the most like clear, authentic, specific version of Karma and her family and her culture and her world on the table was really fun.
I love that. And that's such a good point you make, because that's kind of how our team is made up. Like, I'm from the Midwest, the senior editors from New York, and then we have somebody from the South, and it's so representative of all these Black cultural experiences.
And it's so much fun. I mean, obviously it's incredible to be in a space where you're not the only Black person in the room. I'm sure many of us have had that experience before, where you're like, well, whatever your experiences is, must be the be all end all of Blackness. And like, it's like, that's not true. Wait, hold on a second. Like, and I think a lot of our episodes speak to that, right? We see, Karma is obviously, her family is Black, but also we have Winston, who's Afro-Latinx, and his family. And so the celebration of the different kinds of ways their cultures intermingle and intersect is really awesome. So we have that same experience, and it's so much fun to be able to kind of like compare notes on our experiences growing up, what we dealt with, what we talked about, because it was really, in some cases, really similar, in some cases really different, and finding those shades of nuance was where we found great stories.